Hello and welcome to the Scaling Deep podcast. I'm super excited to be in an interview series, and I am interviewing Braden Drake, who has a membership story to tell us today. So I'm so excited that you're here with us, Braden. And why don't you tell us a little bit more about your membership?
Sure. So thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. Brief background. I am an attorney by education and trade, I suppose, licensed in California. I also have a master's degree in tax law. So I did that after I took the bar exam. So a lot of people think that I'm a CPA, depending on how they meet me. I'm not. I'm a tax attorney, but I do law, tax consulting, and also we do some like bookkeeping stuff. So my membership, which is called Profit RX, your prescription to build a healthy and wealthy business, covers all of those topics.
That's okay. So that is fascinating because you came from a pretty like linear conservative in a way kind of background. How
Yeah.
did you get into, first of all, being more online and then also taking it to a membership, which is a pretty like innovative style of program for a career that has got probably a lot of restrictions around it?
Yeah, I mostly came through like the funnel of a lot of the big name, like online educators slash influencer. I call them celebrity entrepreneurs. You probably know who they are. But I had some good business friends who introduced me to the world of podcasts, and then I found Jenna Kutcher, and then I found Amy Porterfield, and it just kind of snowballed from there. So I started out with a $2,000 signature course. So swear warning for everybody. A lot of my programs have swear names in them. My old program is called Unfuck Your Biz, which is the same name now as my podcast. And I ran that for about 4 launches and ended up deciding to convert that into a membership because the issue I saw was I had a front end membership, had a course, and then I had a back end membership. And that wasn't really the customer journey, so to speak, wasn't working the way I wanted it to.
Right.
So I folded all 3 programs into one monthly membership just to make it a lot like cleaner and simpler to like launch, market, etc.
Okay, awesome. And so did you feel like you had, I mean, I love the simple thing. And I actually think that's what the real benefit of memberships are. And sometimes this can throw us off, right? Because we're like,
Yeah.
oh no, like how do I do all these things for all these people? Because it was a little more contained before. It was like, oh, here's this section and here's this part. So how did you get your head around that transition? Like how, like, oh, I'll just like, did you wing it? Did you plan it? Like, what was your, a bit
Oh
both?
no, we planned it.
Okay.
we've we planned it. It was probably I did like 6 months of planning because before I launched the membership, I hired a messaging coach to work on messaging, and then we brand like I did the branding for Profit RX and did the outline, and we had to restructure the content. It was a whole thing.
Yeah.
So definitely a planning process for sure.
And how many people or clients did you transition into that? Like, did you already have quite a successful course program? Like, was that signature course selling as well as you wanted it to?
Yeah, it wasn't until it wasn't, which is what prompted the change.
Interesting.
Honestly, looking back, I may have like freaked out a little too early, but I also don't regret the change. Essentially, what happened was we had my very first course launch made like $4,000. That was like a smaller course, and then when we moved to the bigger course, we did I think I did an $18,000 launch, and then a $38,000 launch, and then a $42,000 launch. And then after the $42,000 launch, I'd like tripled my email list. And just all expectations I had was, oh, we're going to have a 6-figure launch. Like it's happening. Like 6 months later, we're going to have a 6-figure launch.
Yeah.
And we had a $10,000 launch.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I've done like podcast episodes on like why I think that happened. It could be a lot of things, like COVID timing, all sorts of stuff. But that's when I was like, even if I made some launch mistakes, I don't know if I like the idea of this like launch roller coaster of a
Yeah.
revenue model. So that was one reason we moved to the membership, in addition to just it helping us iron out the business model a little bit more.
Interesting. So tell me a little bit more what that transition was like. Like, what did you say to people? I mean, I'm sure you had some people with some lifetime access to these programs.
Yeah. Well, they still have like that program still exists. So for the people who bought that program, I think we had about 70 in total, like 70 some students who bought that previous program. They all still have access to it.
Okay.
Um, which is great. If I ever need to clear the space out of my Kajabi account and delete it, they'll get plenty of notice to like download all the materials, but it's still there. What was interesting to me was I've probably now had probably at least 10 people who went through Unfuck Your Biz who have joined my membership since, really just because they want the ongoing support, which was kind of unexpected because I didn't really market it to them even.
Oh, really? So you keep them
Yeah.
separate?
Yeah, I didn't keep them separate like intentionally, but I didn't do any kind of campaign where I tried to like rope my previous members like into the new program, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And why not? Were you
I don't
covering the
know.
same
I
thing?
just, yeah, they went through like a very like structured 10-week group coaching container where we went through the whole curriculum like in the 10 weeks. And then after that, we had an alumni membership.
Yeah.
And everyone who was still paying for the alumni membership got rolled into Profit RX. And so I didn't try to do any kind of like re-engagement campaign for people who were in the course but did not join the alumni membership.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you made that transition, did you just start selling this instead? Like, did you launch it? Like, why don't you just explain a little bit about how you started it and like what you kind of, what the steps you went through?
Sure. So the final launch for Unfuck Your Biz happened in the springtime. It was like April-ish, April, May. Doesn't really matter.
Oh, really? Recently?
No. This was
a couple years.
That was 2021.
Okay.
So yeah, 2021. And then I kind of took the summer to really just like brainstorm and figure out what I wanted to do. We got the membership idea, and then Profit RX launched in November 2021. So I opened the doors again in December, so just a month or so ago, and that was kind of like the 1-year anniversary of the program. So we launched it in November 2021 with a webinar launch. So I promoted the webinar, invited all the people to the webinar. And then I still remember our first webinar had like a 32% like live conversion, which was amazing.
Amazing. That's high.
Yeah.
So like 10% is apparently the happy spot, and above that is the ecstatic spot. So that's 10%, really good.
10% is my average live conversion. So I average a 50% show up rate on my webinars. Typically, my last ones were low, but so if I get 100 people to sign up, I expect 50 people to be there and 5 people to join on the webinar. Typically.
Yeah. So you did that, and then so that was, you got your first members. And then you
and then it went. It was evergreen from there.
Nice.
It was on evergreen. And then I introduced a second tier to the membership about 4 months later. So we can chat about that if you would like. And then after this last launch we just did a few months ago, I closed the membership, and now we're going to a live launch model instead of an evergreen model.
Okay. Well, I'd love to hear about that before you talk about your tiers. Like what made you decide to go, like when you said evergreen, because I like to distinguish the two types of evergreens. There's like a limited evergreen, which means everyone's in their own funnel, but it's still limited. They can't just join any day. And then there's evergreen, which is like come and join anytime.
Yeah.
Which one was yours?
Ours was evergreen. The primary like call to action button. If you went to the home page of my website 4 months ago, the top right-hand corner would be like join the membership was the button. I've done like the limited time funnel for everybody kind of stuff in the past, and those never converted super well for me. I do think they serve a very important purpose, even if they don't convert like in the funnel itself, which is something we can talk about.
They warm people up for a live launch.
Yeah, exactly. They introduce people to the offer so they're more familiar with it once they get to the live launch. But I decided to cut that out. Essentially what we were having was I like live launching. I think that I am pretty good at live launching. I guess what I should say is I'm better at live launching than I am at like doing evergreen promotions. I just haven't really cracked the code on that yet. And also we decided with our last launch, we are running it like a membership, but we're also in some respects treating it like a little bit of a coaching model where every person that joins gets an intro call with me or our client success coordinator. And then we also offer a bookkeeping setup call. So I have a bookkeeper that I pay as an employee in my business, and she actually does one-on-one QuickBooks or spreadsheet calls with our members. And every person after their intro call, we create a profit plan for them. So with these one-on-one components we're introducing into the membership, it's just easier when we're bringing in like cohorts of students. My team can really focus on getting them set up in like within the first month that they're in the program, and then helping them, for a few months. And then we open the doors for like a new wave of folks.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I think a lot of how we do our memberships is based a little bit on our content structure and what people need right away and how we serve people at different levels. I think that's really smart. Do you require them to stay a certain amount of time with that much upfront value? Like somebody sounds like they could come in and get it all instantly. So I'm super curious.
No, we need to. That's something, and I'm open to recommendations. So that's something we're going to explore. They're getting, the membership is $100 a month, and we did not have we did not have a minimum commitment. It's like an insane amount of value that people are getting. And so what we might do in the past, I've done sign up fees. So it's like a $500 to join and then $100 a month after that.
Yeah.
We might do that. I think that's easier to enforce than a minimum commitment. I'm an attorney, and so I help people draft their membership terms. Like we sell those templates, and I tell my clients and students all the time, you can require a 6-month minimum commitment, but if someone breaks the commitment, are you really going to sue them? Like, how are you going to enforce it?
Well, yeah, it's that whole like any payment fee system where it's like pay up front or pay for the next year. I mean, yes, there's risk in that someone can probably say, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, so we might explore the sign-up fee. The other thing is a lot of our one-on-one component is kind of delivered at a certain point in the program. And while we have, like we can call them I was going to say the rabbits and the hares. Hares are rabbits, the rabbits and the turtle, the hares and the turtles. Yeah. You have the fast people and you have the slow people, right? So it is possible that like 5% of our students are going to go through a lot of the curriculum in month 1 and then they could cancel. But we know that the vast majority of our students go through like about a module per month. And like they can't set up their call with our bookkeeper until they've completed module 1.
Right. So you've got like a natural flow to the content, and you've got benefits that are better off realized further down the road, right? So that's a really great planning content structure. I love that. And it's also sounds like while you do have upfront info, it's not just about the info. It's like the implementation isn't going to be fast, and they just don't need technical information. They need to kind of like apply it. Yeah.
And that was another really good lesson learned. My first module in the program used to be called How Do Taxes Work? And I called it the 2-week tax course we should all get in high school. Guess what? Most people don't really want to take that tax course. I think it's very important. And the funny thing is, on our calls all the time with our students, I would poll them for like months. I was like, should I take it out? Should I make it optional? What should I do? And all the people who went through it were like, Braden, I'm so glad that I went through this. It was so helpful. You need to keep it. But so many people were not getting through it. So we did end up pulling it out. We put it in like a bonus program and made it optional. And then what we did was now module 1 of the program is bookkeeping, because like we can't decide if you should have an S corp until, we have your numbers like figured out. Right.
Right.
So that's been really great, because when people join the program, they like read about tax deductions, they go through a couple exercises, and then we set up their bookkeeping, and that helps you get over a really big hurdle early on. And I'm hoping, we don't have the data yet, but I'm hoping that's really going to help increase retention and engagement.
So do you know how long? Oh my gosh, you talk so fast. It's great. I'm getting so much information.
Sorry.
It's like, this is like my all-in-one.
Uh-huh.
I don't need to do any more interviews after this because you're just telling me the whole thing. No, I'm just kidding. So do you know how long, you crank out your numbers, and it's interesting because sometimes knowing how long people stay gives us a really good sense of what that minimum or whatever aim should be to have people in it. Do you know like what that average is for you?
That is a metric that I have to get a lot better at tracking. I'm actually, as we're talking, if you don't mind, I'm going to pull up my analytics in Kajabi and see if it will tell me. Yeah. I have a pretty good intuitive feel of how long people stay.
Yeah.
I don't have the actual number.
What's your intuition telling you?
About 6 months.
Yeah.
I would say that like 10 to 20 I would say about 10 to 20 people will churn around month 3 is where we start to see a drop off. And when we circle back to it later, that's kind of why we introduced the second tier of the membership. But we have kind of like a chunk of people fall off then. And then I feel like 6 months to 9 months, we'll have another chunk of people. And then there's always the people that just I just yesterday got a cancellation request for someone who'd been in my previous membership for like 2.5 years. And when
Yeah.
she requested to cancel, I looked and she hadn't signed in like over a year. And I actually felt like kind of guilty about
Yeah,
that.
so
I don't
that
think,
she kept paying you all this time and didn't bother.
yeah,
It's funny because I think a lot of really low ticket memberships, people kind of count on that as one of the ways that they earn their passive revenue or recurring revenues. They
hmm
kind of like hope some people forget about it. And I don't know that I really believe in that as a way, because it won't last through like recessionary times or tight times, right? Like, and I think
yeah,
that providing just that kind of value, like regardless of what it is, and if it's front loaded and still, yes, they got so much value in their first month that they're actually happy to stick around for another 5 months, just in case they have one quick clarifying question 4 months later. But because they got that initial $600 in the first bit, they likely won't rush to cancel, even if, because they'll know that it's something valuable, and they'll know that they need to sort of just polish it off a tiny bit more. And it might be that they're intense people who just do things all at once.
right. Yeah. Yeah. To help with the retention. This is kind of the problem of putting a course inside of a membership, right? When
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
complete the course, it's like, why do we stay? So we do office hours with our bookkeeper every Friday on
Yeah.
Boxers. Like that's incentive to stick around during tax season. So I used to work for H&R Block. Our bookkeeper still works nights at TurboTax in addition to being a credentialed tax preparer.
Right.
So we call them tax filing parties, and our members come on Zoom calls and file their taxes live while we help them answer the questions. So stuff like that is what, helps keep it a membership aspect.
Yeah, exactly. Like people are always doing their taxes, and they're always figuring out ways to probably save, like, what is the big outcome do you think people get other than probably the relieving of the stress of doing taxes? What do you think some of the really big benefits of your membership are for
I mean,
people?
I would say that it's that mostly. Gets rid of the overwhelm, rid of the stress. We have a bonus program in the membership on back taxes. So about 10 to 20% of our members are more than a year behind on tax returns. So that's a big thing. Also cover LLC and S corp formation.
Mm,
So it's interesting. When I rebranded from Unfuck Your Biz to Profit RX, the reason we called it Profit RX was because when I talked to my messaging coach, I decided, I was like, well, no one actually really cares about an LLC. Like, that's not exciting. That's not sexy. That's not fun.
mhm.
Same thing with contracts. And I was like, well, if we boil it all down, what people do care about is their bank account and all of these legal fundamentals. Like, we want to help you get paid, but we want to help you keep the money once you do get paid by
Well,
not
that
giving
seems
out
like the role
refunds,
of that, of
etc.
what, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why we went with the Profit RX name, and that's what we're like. That's why the tagline is helping you build a healthy and wealthy business.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, there's got to be problem solving, and there also needs to be, I think that's where you keep people longer, is if you're
Right.
adding value to that overall outcome
Uh-huh.
at whatever phase they're at. That's how you keep people
Yeah.
interested, right? Like, fixing the I don't know how to do something isn't going to go forever.
Right. Yeah. And because eventually if I'm doing my job correctly, it's not going to take them forever how to learn the thing. Like, that'd be a terrible way to run a membership. Let me just draw
Yeah,
out the learning
exactly.
process.
Right.
It is tough from the perspective though that we don't teach something that people really want to do, right? It's something they're doing begrudgingly. And we're also not teaching people how to make money, which are typically the two business models you see that are, I would argue, easier, but grass is always greener, maybe. I don't
Hey,
know.
well, you've got a very specific skill set, and getting known for the one thing is very is a good value proposition. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who aren't doing what you're doing because you've come again out of a more conservative track. And I always love it
Right.
when professionals come into the online business world and take something that most people aren't bothering to do. Whereas the online business world is full of marketers, right? So there's a lot of
Right.
competition.
Yeah. It's
So
fun. I like it.
you want to tell me a little bit more about your tier? Like, that second tier that you're, I think, deliberating still, like, what was the intention behind that?
Sure. So we had, and you mentioned earlier, how some people have this business model of I'm just going to price it low so people keep paying for it, even if they don't use it. And I don't want to say that it was actually my intention to create that, but it kind of was. I'll explain. We had a lot of people. So when we launched ProfitRx, it was $75. It's now $100. We had a lot of people join who we literally never saw, right? They never came to a call. Like we didn't really know their name. We didn't know their businesses. They just weren't showing up, which, low engagement leads to low retention. So the cancellation started coming in a few months, but I was talking to several of them and they were telling me, well, Braden, I still want to go through the content and like, I want to go through the course. I just haven't had time and I'm not showing up to the calls. So I don't like really want to keep paying for it. So we introduced a new tier, and I just called it the content only tier, which meant you kept access to the content, but you didn't get access to support. And we priced it at $30 a month, and we allowed people to downgrade. And then we ended up launching that like as its own kind of tier for the program. And the way I marketed it was, this is good for you if you're not the type of person who's going to like dive in and go through the whole course, but you want access to this like entire bundle of resources when you need them.
When you need it. Yeah.
Yeah.
How's that going?
Pretty good. It made, let me see. Let's bring in my totals.
I love the numbers. Yeah. If you're willing to share the numbers, I'm sure all of us are really curious about the numbers.
Oh yeah. I do profit reports on my own podcast where like we literally link to my own bookkeeping. So that tier of the membership brought in $25,000 last year. So it peaked. We really opened it up in like May, like April, May. By June, it peaked at $3,600 in monthly revenue on its own. And then we didn't really promote it much after that. And by the end of the year, it was down to $2,400 in revenue.
Okay. So that's what, 800 members? 800? Am I doing the math right?
No. So 2,400 divided by 30.
Let me do the math.
80 members. So
80,
I think you did 24,000.
80 members. Okay. So, and that other tier is how many members?
Our VIP tier, it was, well, in November before we launched, it was around $1,400 or $1,400 in revenue, divided by, it was around probably 20 members. We brought in 44 new members in December at $100 a month.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So what does that make you like? I suppose like it's so close to that launch still, but I just curious to know, like, do you think running 2 tiers makes sense? Is that hard to manage? Because I know a lot of people have that craving to do that immediately in their membership. Yeah. It's like, I want 2 tiers. I'm like, you have 20 members. Can we just hold it a little bit? Is there a way to bring that into, because you did say one of your goals was simplicity.
Yeah.
Do you see some way to combo that?
The problem is, honestly, it's not hard to manage, like at all.
So that's not
because
the
$30. Well, I would say the problem is, and this is probably a mindset thing, right? So I need to go talk to my life coach friend. Like, should I keep feeling guilty about the fact that I'm making $2,500 a month on this thing that takes me an hour a month of work tops? Because when people join our membership, we have up to like a year's worth of automated emails that people get. And they're all triggered based on what module you're in. So once you join a new module, you're unsubscribed from the sequence for the previous module. So it's fairly sophisticated. So most people can pay $30 a month for that membership and feel like they're getting, content, like email content for at least 6 months. So that's all set up. So it's easy to run. My question is like, really, does marketing and messaging that program take away from what else we're doing in the business? And also, is it a worthwhile thing? Like, are people getting results from it?
Well, I mean, they are if they're staying. Like, there is some kind of voting with your dollars going on there, right?
Yeah, I suppose so.
But maybe you haven't taken the time to evaluate that, and that could be improved, because it can also be a group that you then market to, right? Like that could be your first level. That could be your engaged audience that would want to buy other things from you. Or do you think that's a separate kind of personality mindset?
Yeah, it definitely can. It definitely can be. I've seen success with that in the past. Like our membership members tend to be like 50% of our buyers when we do affiliate launches for other people, which is
Right.
always fun. Um, Moving forward, though, to kind of narrow it down, the decision I have to make in the next month or two is, will we open the content only membership to the general public again? Or is it only going to be, we call it a back pocket offer, a
Oh,
downsell option for our VIP members?
like a downsell.
Right. Basically, when they email us wanting to cancel, we can say we can cancel. But if you want to, if you haven't finished your content, you can always downgrade to this other option.
Oh, I see. So growing that VIP would be the priority because you love, is that the work that you love? Like, you sounds like you have the team too that's built in for
Yeah.
that. And that is probably fairly hands-on work. So what do you think when it comes to running that? You talked about like an hour a week for the other one. Well, what does it take to run your VIP one in terms of time?
Yeah, so it takes my team members. So my team members, they get paid between like $30 and $40 an hour, the people who work in the membership.
Mhm.
And each new member gets a half an hour one-on-one and a 2 hour bookkeeping call, which will be changing to an hour. But that cost me roughly what was that, like $120 to get them set up. And then my one team member runs an hour-long co-working call each week. The bookkeeper does office hours. So I would say like $120 per member, plus it's costing me like $200 a week.
Okay. So, and you're not doing as much in it. So that's mostly your team. Is that?
Yeah. And since we had 44 new members, I did about 15 of the intro calls, and
Okay.
I'll be doing some of the bookkeeping one-on-ones as well. I'll probably do like 10, and then our bookkeeper will do 20 and my other person will do 10.
Does sound like you have to crunch, like you're going to have to crunch the numbers a little bit though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I
I
think
think
that,
we will.
looking at like, okay, if your lifetime value is say $600 and I'd be
Mhm.
very interested to know how much on average per member it costs, let alone, your time as well on top of that.
Yeah. We will probably do the setup fee with the next launch. I don't know if it'll be
Yeah.
500, if it might be like 200 or 300. So that'll offset all of the upfront costs. We also do have, we're offering tax prep services for the first time this tax season. So
Okay.
I'm anticipating about a quarter of our members will pay us to do their tax return. So there's like some additional revenue things once they join as well.
Yeah. And a lot of reasons why people will do memberships are to sell, like, again, having engaged, captivated audience to buy
Right.
other services. Is that what would be the reason why you would do setup fee versus have a higher monthly fee for the membership? I'm just curious to know why the $100 and not
Yeah. It's a great
increasing.
question. So my end goal for the membership is $150 a month.
Okay.
So and this is something I discussed on like my annual team meeting. We're going to do a small launch during tax season, and then our big launch is every fall. So I thought, do we want to save? I'll probably do a price increase to 125, and then in the future we'll do a price increase to 150. So we're debating if we want to do the price increase promotion for our spring launch or our fall launch.
Yeah.
So that's one decision.
And test it.
Yeah, and test it. I don't know. I did a podcast interview with one of my other friends, and she likes to get on my ass about my pricing all the time. She thinks I
Yeah.
need to increase all my prices. And I told her, I was like, I don't know why I feel like I need to be the patron saint of this industry and just make everything like as affordable as possible. And she's like, yeah, you got to knock that off. So I don't know. I go back and forth on it, but
I think the interesting thing is that I know we see memberships as low ticket, and I am a bit of a proponent of higher ticket memberships because I think we're paying for that anyway. I think what we're getting used to is paying for access, and we're actually starting to buy a lot of things that are programs, but they're actually memberships because we lose all the content when we leave.
yeah,
So the world's kind of changing its mind about how people get access. It's like, you're not going to get access if you're not paying for it or using it, because you're not going to use it. So you're going to be you're going to be paying, you're going to be using it, and then it's done. So I think that is a mindset shift that we're kind of leading. And also, you are a professional service. So it's not like a hobby thing or something like that's,
right.
I mean, they need to get this support and pay for this anyway. It needs to be a priority for them, or they're just going to be avoiding it still and probably not join. So it is replacing what they would normally be spending on. And maybe it's time to do some case studies for like, what are people saving? Like, what are the amounts?
Yeah. 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 We're going to do, so we start at 400 a month for one-on-one bookkeeping.
Yeah.
And then for like, I charge $1,000 for one-on-one LLC setup, $1,500 for S corps, $1,000 for contracts, and all that's covered in the membership. Um,
So for now, you're selling those programs really well in the membership.
No, no, not really. Those those things we sell to people who don't do the membership.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what I
Yeah.
would often do is if someone comes to me and they'll say, "Hey, Braden, I think I really need an S corp," I'll say, "Okay, well, I call it an S corp in a day. It's a VIP kind of thing, a
Nice.
VIP day." So I can say that's $1,500. Or if you want to join Profit RX, like you'll learn how to do it on your own, and you can come to our group calls if you have questions, and it's $100 a month. And people will kind of choose. And then the people who book the VIP day will often I'll give them 3 months access into the membership for kind of maintenance stuff, and then they'll
Yeah.
stick
Yeah.
around.
Yeah. Well, that sounds fun. So tell me one more last thing I guess I'll ask you is, what do you love about running things this way as opposed to the way you did it before? Like what's the difference for you? It could be like an actual tangible thing, or it can be an intangible. I'm just curious to know what you enjoy about it.
Like as opposed to like a more traditional law practice, or as opposed to the course?
As opposed to a course.
Yeah, I really like both, to be honest. I love launching courses as well. I'm a big proponent of courses. For me, it really came down to I had so we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I had a front end membership, and then I had my course, and then I had my back end membership, and people were getting really confused about the front end membership versus the course. And I thought they like sequentially led into each other, but they really didn't. They were like two separate things, and it was confusing. So it boils down to like the simplicity. Like for me, it's just so much easier to market it this way.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's
Yeah.
what it's all about, right? It's like the simplicity thing, because things get complicated very quickly. And the more complicated they get, the less profitable they are, because there's a lot of admin stuff.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I'd love to point people in your direction, especially because I'm sure there's a lot of people who are viewing this who want help with their taxes. So where can we find you online?
Yeah, well, people can go to my website. It's www.bradendrake.com. You can join the waitlist for Profit RX if you'd like, but being the patron saint of the online legal and accounting education industry, I also have an entire bank of contract templates for $30, which is wildly underpriced, but sells like hotcakes. So people can check that out. And then follow me on Instagram. Braden is my first name, Braden, Adam, like the biblical figure, Drake, like the rapper. That's my full name on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. This is super helpful.
All right. Thank you.